We want to start off with a reminder that we are not doctors. Before you make any changes or try something new, always consult with your doctor and medical team first. Chronic illness can vary from patient to patient, so it's always best to consult with your own doctor for what is best for you.
Hello, welcome to I Be Determined. I'm your host, Mason Harvey, and I have Crohn's disease.
And I'm your other host, Michelle Harvey. I'm Mason's mom, and I am talking from the perspective of a caregiver for Crohn's disease. So today, it's going to be a little different.
Mhm.
It's kind of not really a planned out episode. We did have something planned to discuss and do one of our normal episodes, and things changed. And I had asked Mason if we should maybe take a break from this. And so it was his decision if he wanted to continue and do this. So just a temporary break. We still plan to do the podcast for sure, but I just know if he needed a break. And so I'll let you, do you want to explain what changed this week? What happened?
So I currently I started to have a flare. So I just started to get a flare. It's not anything that bad yet, but a flare started and we have to take some precautions and stuff.
Yeah,
So that's what changed this week.
And one of the reasons why we thought this might be important just to share is because I think sometimes it's like to other people that's like, well, what does a flare look like? What does a flare do? And to say, hey, this is what
a flare looks
a
like.
flare looks like. And this is why this disease is often called an invisible disease. And of course, sometimes as a flare progresses, it will become more apparent if things change and other things happen. But for the most part, you look the same.
Yeah. You look the same.
Yeah.
How could you tell me that I look different from the last time I was in the podcast?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Probably not. If you're watching us.
Unless you have insane eyes and you can see cells.
Yeah. Or have some kind of special
superpower
or something like that.
They can see
which would be really cool, actually, because then maybe they could detect flares.
Yeah. If you do
earlier.
You should work as a doctor in the hospital.
Yeah. So we just kind of wanted to just kind of go over how Mason's been feeling, what's been happening. We were at Rady Children's Hospital yesterday, and his doctor ordered some tests. And these are fairly standard tests that we've gotten used to when he does start to show signs that he is flaring. They're going to look at these inflammation markers, and we should find out in about 5 days or so. And we have an appointment on this coming Tuesday, which is a couple days out from when we're recording this. And we'll be meeting with his doctor and also doing a treatment on the same day. So
wonderful.
Yeah. So that was kind of unexpected. And that's kind of how this disease is. And I think that's what's so frustrating to me as a caregiver is that there is no answer when this happens. It's kind of like, well, let's see what we can do. There's no magic treatment. There's no magic pill that will help
Cure
us.
you.
And they also can't tell you, oh, you should get better in about a week, or it's not like that. There's no
the disease is completely random.
Yeah. They have an idea of how things can progress and how they want it to progress. And you obviously don't want to end up hospitalized. And so you want to really watch for the signs and notify your doctor the minute things change.
Yeah. Because then you can catch as fast as possible.
Right. Which catching as fast as possible
can
is
really
key.
Change how the flare turns.
We've been through a few of these now, so it's become a little more identifiable to us, like what Mason's symptoms are, because some of you listening with this disease, your symptoms might be a little different at first.
So don't worry.
Yeah, it might be a little different, or they might be the same. And things can progress very quickly.
Yeah.
That's the thing with
very
this.
quickly.
Yeah, he can go from telling us, I'm feeling a little bit of this or that, and to the next day, it's like,
boom.
Yeah, completely different.
Completely a flare.
For us, it's like, I guess from my perspective, And being a caregiver, it's a little tough because looking at him, he looks
normal.
And there's other things we do watch for, which is like maybe like his skin getting like paler. For him, anemia is part of this. His energy levels, if he's sleeping more.
Appetite.
Your appetite is a big one. And for the past week, I've been kind of watching him like a hawk because I had noticed his appetite was, he was still eating fine, but he wasn't like eating quickly.
Fast, yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't eating as quickly. It wasn't like he was as hungry. But he would eat. It was kind of like, it's like, okay, are you feeling okay? Is everything okay? And, oh, yeah. Yeah, he's going fine.
Okay.
And to be fair, I mean, Mason, did you notice your appetite changing, or did you just, it's one of those things that
it was hard for me to notice.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously now I can like notice now from before because there's a little bit of a difference. But when I was going through the phase where you go from eating normally to having a bad appetite, I didn't really notice anything because it was so steady. But I don't really take notice of things like that.
Which is kind of what we talked about in the other episode about recording food intake, your restroom intake, and these are the reasons
why. It's important to take note of these things,
right? Because sometimes even as the patient can tell you, they don't immediately notice the changes. As a caregiver, I can just ask him questions, and sometimes at this age, especially, it's really tough because I think kids, they go through growth spurts, and so maybe they are really hungry, and Mason has been growing, and so
it's hard to like pick out your appetite decreasing because of flare or your appetite decreasing because you're out of a growth spurt. Yeah.
And so it's like, is this a normal thing, or is this a Crohn's thing? And so we're just all going through this for the first time, just like a lot of you out there. And unless you have another child with this disease, but when you have one, it's like you're always learning and trying to take notes so you don't miss something. So for us, weighing him is also very important. For Mason, that's a red flag. And because
it's a big red flag.
That's been a pattern of his in the past. And so for us, as soon as that weight, even a pound, decreases, 2 pounds, you need to start paying attention, because at this age, the weight should be going the opposite direction.
It needs to be going up continuously.
Yeah.
Or it should be just being stable.
Right. Yeah. Depending if you're growing, and you've been doing a little bit of growing. Yeah. So we have a way where we have my chart. We contact his doctor. So she's all updated. And we also check the restroom log to see those changes as well. Our journal we have that we keep. And in that journal, Mason, you can definitely pick up now. It's a lot easier to look and say, oh, there were these
blips,
changes. Yeah.
A little.
And we don't need to like go into detail for everybody.
No TMI today.
But there were definite signs that things were changing. And that's, again, a reason why, as a caregiver, it's important for us to have ways to monitor this, because Mason may not pick up on it either. I don't think you quite picked up on it at first.
Really pick up on it immediately.
Yeah. And then I think you did, and you were kind of
like,
kind of didn't want to say anything because you were just hoping, okay, maybe it's something I ate.
Maybe it's just a bad day.
Yeah. And and that is true also, because a lot of teenagers and adults, we go through just normal stresses, normal things that can cause our systems. It is a normal part of life, and it causes our systems to deregulate.
Especially when you have to go to the hospital every 2 weeks.
Yeah. And we had last week, like we had mentioned, was a busy week with doctors. And we have school coming up.
Which is a little bit of a stress, but not too much. Yeah.
Because we look for other factors to try to figure out why did this happen? Everything's been going along so smoothly. And we're not going to probably have some of those answers until we get the test results and we meet with his doctor and see what she wants to do. Of course, I'm always doing research. I'm talking to other parents to see if there's things that maybe we can pick up on. Yeah. But he's doing really well otherwise. And then these things happen, and we don't want it to get worse. It'll progress to where it can be painful. Yeah. And then it gets hard for him to sit up, and his joints could start hurting.
Could start hurting, which is like almost the worst part.
For him,
because even if you do have energy, you still can't like run and stuff because it hurts to move certain joints if you do have joint pain, like your knees or your arms or elbows.
And a lot of times for you, it's like ankles, your back.
Usually it's ankles or the back.
I think even your wrists sometimes. Like we've got, or your
the
hips.
wrists do happen.
So it's for us. That's another clue that something isn't working. But for now, thankfully, there's been no joint pain,
and I still have good energy.
Yeah, energy is still good. So we're still doing very well. So we're jumping on this very quick. Hopefully we can get it. It'll, like his doctor said, hopefully it's a blip.
Yeah.
And
a quick little blip.
And we'll be moving on from it and back on track. Sometimes what they do have to do is they do sometimes have to do scopes to go in there and see if maybe the medication, the treatments are failing. Yeah. And that's
which we do not want. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, exactly. All fingers crossed, because that would be difficult because he's on 2 biologics, and that was really hard for us to get. When you do go on to a new biologic, typically it takes some time to work, and so they have to use a bridge medication, which is usually like a steroid. And for Mason, he became steroid dependent because his doctor could not wean him off of it because his body would just start flaring immediately when they tried to take away the steroid. So
it was a very slow wean.
Yeah, it was. They
especially
had
on dual biologics.
Yeah, so they took him off steroids. It took about 4 months to get off of it, and it's not something that it also affects his growth. He did not grow while he was on prednisone. For us, that is it's different than an adult because you have a lot more to consider when you're in a flare with growth. It's not as easy because you can't just take prednisone and then it's like, well, okay, but he's 14. Obviously, his doctor's way more well-versed on this than I am, but it's just it's my observation of what we've been through. And so I know what she feels like with this also.
And also, just to say, the Stelara, when I started to when it started to work, that was almost a month.
So it took 10 months.
10 months. Yeah, it was almost a year.
But you're correct with the 1 month for your joint pain. So the very first thing your Stelara helped was your joint pain.
It took 1 month to help with the joint pain.
Right. And then at around 10 months is when the doctor added Entyvio because it was like, just wasn't quite cutting it for the Stelara.
It was almost there, but it couldn't quite grasp the final flag.
Right. And I think the idea was to kind of switch you over to Entyvio because we weren't sure if the Stelara was failing. But as it turns out, your body reacted well to having that balance of having both of them. So
the more the merrier.
And there's other things you can do like EEN and TPN and with like liquid diets. There's antibiotics that they sometimes do. But again, it's all up in the air until we talk to the doctor and see what she wants to do. And so until then, we're just going to be kind of taking it easy and trying to get off to a not stressful school start, trying to just kind of ease into it.
Be free of the flare.
Yeah. So, I mean, everyone I keep seeing posts online with everyone, their kids going back to school. And it's like a little disheartening for us because it's a little different. We were thinking, oh, great, we're going into this will be the first time you're starting the school year since the diagnosis and we're not dealing with something like flare. And then all of a sudden there's
a flare.
There it is. So here we are. And
just out of nowhere.
We just have to be as positive as we can. And
positive is a big part to
we have to look at all our options and do what the doctor thinks is best for him.
Just think of the future.
Yeah. And look at the future. It'll all work out. It'll be okay. And as a caregiver, I think it's very important to support and ask your child questions, or if it's an adult you're caregiving for, just ask a lot of questions, find out how they're feeling and believe them too. Please don't ever think someone's being dramatic with this disease. It's very important to listen to what they're telling you, listen to the signs, and get in touch with a doctor. Make sure the doctor's on board the entire time and knows what's going on as well. What would you say from a patient perspective? How do you stay positive when you're starting to flare and you get frustrated at first? But
I'd say even though I was frustrated in the beginning, I just tell myself to think of how I will feel in the future. And in the future, I probably won't have a flare, which means I'll be feeling better. So I just keep my mind focused on the future. And I want to get to the future so I don't have to live with this flare anymore. Or Crohn's.
And also perfectly timed. We had a therapy appointment for you this week. So we got to talk to his therapist and explain what's going on. So that's kind of cool. Yeah. And a flare.
Perfectly timed, actually.
Yeah, it was perfectly timed. If it does progress and he's not feeling as good, obviously his health is number one. And if he wants to take a break from this, that's what's going to happen. We'll just resume when he is feeling better. We will see what happens and see how it goes, see how this week's appointment goes. Also, you'll be getting your Stelara injection. So that should also...
That will probably help.
That might help as well. So we just thought it was important to share because a lot of times it's like you don't look sick. And so you don't quite understand when someone's going through something, kind of might brush them off. And you should never do that to anybody. If anybody's coming to you with anything, be a good friend, be a good family member, listen to them and talk to them and ask questions. And also I see other parents sometimes in these parent groups and they'll post questions or concerns. And I always say, well, first of all, before you came to us, you probably should have already talked to the doctor, which a lot of times they have. Most times parents are like, oh yeah, I did that. And then rely on the other parents as support. There's these support groups that you can go into, but you don't want to go in there just looking for advice before you talk to the doctor.
If you have an important question or any question, ask your doctor first, and then you can...
And then go to your friends and go to your support groups.
The doctor is always first.
Yeah, because then I can say, okay, I already talked to the doctor, but in your guys' experience, what happened? And so and we help each other out. Sometimes you just need to have that support. You may not, like Mason, you said the other day, like you told your therapist, you're not always going to hear what you want to hear. You're not going to get the answer you want, but it's important to get those answers, even if it's not what you hoped it was. And we just tackle it and move forward. So like our one wave at a time motto.
Is when the doctor had me do 2 biologics, that wasn't an answer I wanted to hear.
It was an answer none of us wanted to hear. I know, because I was very...
2 biologics?
Yeah.
I was having trouble with 1.
Yeah.
But here I am. The dual biologics really are helping.
Yeah.
So far. And I'm glad that was a decision the doctor decided to do.
Right.
So even though you don't like the idea at the time, maybe give it some time and you'll realize that decision was a good decision.
Right. And you don't want to react to something out of fear.
No.
And you want to react to it out of knowledge. And it's not always easy getting there, but you get there. Yeah. It's all part of the journey and it's all over the place.
The future.
It's all over the place like a crazy roller coaster. So
loop de loop.
Yeah.
Whoop-de-doo.
Yeah. And then we'll just adapt here at home. We will, if he wants to sit on a couch, if he wants to lay down, however he wants to get his school done is fine. If he needs to sleep in a little bit, if he had a long night and he didn't get any rest or he's been in pain, we just adjust. And that's what's really good about the homeschooling for us is we can easily keep moving forward. This doesn't hold him back. And also, we forgot to mention at the very beginning, we're in a totally different room. If you're watching us on YouTube, I know if you're listening, you have no idea. You're like, okay, that's cool. But if you're watching us, we're trying out something new because the last setup was literally in our living room. And we have a family room too that we could use. So we kind of had the living room set up with it, but it's not ideal to constantly be in there. So we're trying to figure out a solution because we loved the location and it was a much bigger room. So now we're kind of in my office. And so what we call now the podcast room.
It's now the podcast room.
Yeah, we couldn't do it in the candle room because
we should have a door we should have a sign that hangs above the door that says podcast room.
Yeah,
exactly.
That'd be a nice little
now
detail. Recording.
Yeah, now recording.
Yeah, so people know.
A studio.
Yeah, basically. We may just end up staying in here if it works well. Yeah, so we're kind of in a different
atmosphere,
space. Yeah,
space.
So I know, but I think that's about it for now. I know some of you listening might be wondering what more of his symptoms are, but we don't need to talk about that. And I feel like if he's, might not be something he's entirely comfortable sharing with the world. But you can always look up Crohn's and Colitis Foundation on their website, which I always link, whether it's the podcast on YouTube or at Team IB Determined on Instagram. I always put that in there because there's resources on there, and they can also help you look at what a flare looks more like. But visually, this is what a flare
looks
is.
like.
Yeah. So we'll see how he's
we all
feeling.
want to see me, don't we?
Yeah. Well, you're kind of the,
We're
me,
both hosts.
Yeah, you're a huge part of this, and I'm just, I'm the caregiver, and it's important your story is heard because there's a lot of people out there that don't have a way to have their voices heard or have their story shared. And so we're hoping through us that maybe you'll learn more about a family member or a friend that is going through this. And always remember, ask questions. Don't assume. This disease is so different from person to person. Some are less severe, some are more severe. So never assume that someone you met that was having an easy time with it is number one, actually having an easy time with it. Because maybe just like with the flare symptoms, maybe they don't want to tell you everything that's going on.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't want to feel like they're complaining. They might feel like you don't want to hear about it. And maybe someone is feeling really sick and will tell you about it, and just listen to them. That's it for now. And if Mason's feeling okay, we'll be back probably next week.
Probably in the next video.
Yeah. So we'll see.
Oh, of course, we're going to be in the next video.
We'll be in the next video. It's not sure.
Next week.
Yeah, because we try to do these weekly, but we're not even sure. Even when he starts school, we may have to adjust to every couple weeks. We'll see, because his health and school, all of that's number one. This is just for us, for raising awareness, kind of for fun, and we enjoy talking about together. But it's not the number one priority right now. So we're
try
gonna
to keep up posting.
Yeah, because that's what Mason's like. Are we gonna keep doing this during school? And like, well, I guess we just kind of roll with it.
Yeah.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see what happens. But we will be back with another episode, and pretty soon we'll jump back on track. Hopefully we'll have better news for you guys and an update next time we see you all. Thank you for listening. And don't forget on Instagram to give us a follow. It's at Team IB Determined, and you can keep up to date. It's sometimes I post daily, sometimes it's every couple days, but you can keep up to date on Mason and what's going on with him on there. You can also listen to us we have many stations were available now to listen to us now. So feel free to listen or watch on YouTube. So
on YouTube, don't forget to leave a comment if you want to, but most importantly, like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit that bell.
Thank you guys for all of our new subscribers.
Thank you.
Hi, and
if you
thank
subscribed.
You. Yeah, we're so
you
excited.
If you're watching.
And thank you for those of you who are commenting or who have given us feedback. We do appreciate that, because again, that's what makes this show successful is help not only about talking about him, but helping you guys too. So we rely on you to give us ideas or let us know how the episode helped you. Share your personal story with us. I think important for other people watching this to read your comments too and read your story. So that's part of it. All right. Well,
we'll see you next
episode and video.
Yay.
Bye.
Bye. We hope you will stick around, tune in, and reach out to us with your own journeys. We are excited to give you an inside view of what it takes to be a caregiver and what it's like to be a patient.
And most of all, we hope you'll maybe be able to play something you hear on here that might help you in your own life. Sometimes life changes, and it's all about how you handle the journey.